Kind of the inspiration for this talk was, I'm sure we've probably all been on teams where it seems like only one or two people ever talk, or maybe only another one or two people never talk, or maybe you've been one of those people. Um, so this kind of going to go over what happens when that happens, and should you fix it, and what can you do about it. So I kind of started first looking at Project Aristotle from Google. If anybody knows what that is, they just kind of looked at their effective teams and tried to figure out what was it that made them effective. And then I stumbled across another thing, this research by Anita Woolley and her team in 2009 about something they called collective intelligence, which is basically we have an individual measure of intelligence, IQ, which kind of says, is there just a very general measure that can be predictive of how someone will perform across a wide variety of tasks? And that works pretty well. So they said, is there something kind of equivalent for groups of people? Is there a collective intelligence? And they found that there is one, but it's not strongly correlated to the IQ of the members of the team, which is kind of what you would probably immediately jump to, or I would. Some of the teams they studied had lots of high IQ members or some average or lower IQ members. Some teams had one strong leader. And some teams they kind of took little leadership roles along all the members, and it didn't really make a difference. The three main things they found that did make a difference was one that they called social sensitivity of the team members, which just means you can look at somebody's face and you can accurately make attributions about what they're thinking and feeling. So kind of very much empathy. The second one is what they call distribution of conversational turn taking. It's kind of a mouthful, but it's pretty much what it sounds like. If conversations were dominated by one or two people, collective intelligence suffered. And if it was fairly averagely shared, then the collective intelligence was higher. And the last one, definitely the least controversial, was actually the number of women on the team. The more women that were on the team, the higher the collective intelligence was, except if it was all women, then it went back down. So the highest was when it was one man and the rest women, and they don't know exactly why that was. They said, what we do know is it seems to be on average women are better at social sensitivity, so maybe that's why, but we're not 100% sure. And related to Project Aristotle, if you've heard of psychological safety, which is one of the factors they found, Anita Woolley's research is what Project Aristotle used. And 1 and 2 on here are psychological safety, which is just you feel safe to speak up with your team and take risks with certain things, and you won't be blamed or ridiculed for those things. So this is just kind of fun, little test here for social sensitivity. This is a pre-existing test in psychology called reading the mind in the eyes. And it's actually used to test for autism in children, because if you're autistic, you have a harder time reading social cues and things like that. So don't say the answer out loud, just kind of think to yourself, but just look at the face here, and from the 4 emotions, try to guess which one this is conveying. And this one is playful. So if you got that wrong, don't worry. It just means you lack empathy. But I actually chose this one because it's one of the harder ones on the test. There's 30 or so of them. If you want to look it up online, it takes about 5 minutes to do. So it's kind of fun. I'm going to put team members on a very broad spectrum of talking a little, talking a lot. So very scientific names there. Just kind of categorize people to help different ways we can address it. So people who talk a little or never talk, I'm going to contend they fall into 2 categories of reasons for that. One is ability, and the other one is motivational. So ability would be like probably entry level or new to the team. Like, I don't have the confidence that I know what I'm talking about to speak up. But we still want them to. We rather want the team to adapt their language so they can understand what's going on, so the knowledge is shared. That could be an opportunity to address maybe training gaps or hiring gaps, or mentorship programs within the team. And the other one, motivational. I think that one is harder to address because it can be from issues outside of work sometimes. It can be personal things. And you cannot pry into that if that's going on. You can like try to be patient with them and just like be empathetic, but you try to find out maybe what their individual motivations are for work. But if it's something outside of work, there's ultimately not much you can do about it. It could be from something like they're not getting fulfillment from the particular work they're doing. That's another opportunity for maybe like, is there anything we could have done in the interview that would have more accurately shown what they were doing or something? And if somebody has to switch teams, that's not necessarily a failure because they could be happier there and providing more value. No, I forgot to step through my pictures. The people who talk a lot. So these are probably people who have been in the career longer or the team longer. They have more educated opinions about the domain stuff. That doesn't mean we want them to be the only ones talking. At some point, you can, I wouldn't set up explicit one-on-ones for this because that's kind of awkward, but just whenever you're in a situation, you can bring it up naturally. You can tell these people, like, you still appreciate their input and you need it, because that's true. And you also want to bring up the less experienced team members so that they can someday be on the same level they are. And again, with the mentorship programs, in my experience, senior people actually enjoy that a lot, helping out the less experienced people. It's rewarding for them. And I feel like maybe the obvious thing here is there's a big opportunity to address siloed knowledge. So if you have one person in a meeting, you know, they're the only ones who knows the subject material. What is everybody else on the team not going to do? Like, they're not going to listen the entire, like, I don't know this, only this guy, he's the only one who can contribute. I'm just going to sit back because I can't say anything anyway. So that's just going to continue it and make it worse. So I could make a whole nother talk on how to address silos. So we won't go over that, but this is an opportunity to do that. And maybe the easiest one is just be comfortable with awkward silences sometimes. So maybe wait 4 or 5 seconds before speaking up, see if anybody else does. You'd be surprised sometimes. And last part here, these are sort of soft skill suggestions maybe. I'm just gonna go through quickly to be used in tandem with the other stuff. Maybe the most important one is just evaluate yourself first. Like, are you talking too much or not enough before you look at the other members on the team? Use formats, meeting formats that encourage participation. So for instance, please don't use the same retro format every time, as an example. At least just change the theme, maybe, you know, make people use their brain a little. It can just be a little more fun that way too. I was on a team once that we switched from anonymous cards to cards that had your name on it. And we never had to call anybody out, but it's just that those people notice, like, oh, everybody else can see my cards not ever moving on the board now, and they're more likely to get self-conscious about it. I put this on here because most of us, maybe all of us, are working remotely, like me. Just because you're in a remote meeting, still show others that you're paying attention, like normal conversation. So, like, camera on, looking at the screen, and not down, like nodding, just like making facial expressions as you normally would in a conversation. These people engaged. Don't interrupt people. That one's kind of hard remotely because there's a little bit of lag and less physical cues. One-on-ones, again, not everybody is in a position to set up literally like one-on-one calendar meetings. But if maybe you pair program, maybe you're just having lunch together, maybe you're just shooting the breeze, like, you can bring things up naturally without having to set up those meetings. And you can understand where people are coming from. Everybody has different reasons for why they do what they do at work. Some people never want to have on-call issues because they want to spend time with their family. Some people find it really rewarding to do coding solutions. Just everybody's different. Icebreakers. For more quiet people, if they're not willing to talk about important things, they might be willing to talk about things that don't matter. And over time, you sort of build that up. Very similar to that. Team building in games, just because you're at work for 8 hours doesn't mean you have to talk about work for 8 hours. Just like be a human with people, talk about other stuff and have fun. Very similar to the one above, just, you know, have a break, talk about, you know, your favorite game or something you found over the weekend or something. If something happens, don't focus on blaming somebody, focus on what can the team change about the process so that doesn't happen next time. Ask for feedback, and this really goes with psychological safety. Ask for feedback and then like ask to be challenged, and don't get offended if you are challenged. It's just, it might be a better way of doing things. And I don't know, 1 and 10 are kind of the most important, I think. Just have empathy in general. Empathy should kind of be your guide for all of this. Like, just try to be empathetic and try to understand people, how people act. They're probably not trying to be malicious. It's just a result of experiences they've had. And these are just little things to look up if you've never heard of them. Project Aristotle was in 2016, so not super fresh anymore, but still relevant in my opinion. Reading the mind in the eyes is just kind of fun. It takes literally a few minutes. So yeah, that is it.